Hello, and welcome to the first Bioenergy Spotlight video of 2014. Today we will hear from Jonathan Mayle, Director for the Bioenergy Technologies Office. Dr. Mayle joined the Department of Energy from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in the fall of 2013. He will be interviewed by Valerie Reed, Deputy Director for the Bioenergy Technologies Office.
Jonathan, it's good to see you, and I know the Bioenergy Office is thrilled that you're finally here with our program. So I wanted to spend some time asking you some questions for the sake of our audience. What prompted you to join DOE or to get involved in the bioenergy field in the first place?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. Well, I have a background in catalysis, and I was asked one day could I utilize that to work in the field of bioenergy. And so I went away and did some background research, and I was able to then take that background and apply it to the generation of biofuels and bioproducts and the other area of biopower. And it's an area where we can address a need for the US and help with reducing emissions for the US and continue to support a diversified energy portfolio. And so it's remarkably rewarding.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. So you mentioned a need in the U.S., and I know we hear the term bioeconomy all the time. Why is that important to the U.S.? What is it about the bioeconomy and a renewable energy portfolio that you think is important for us to be working towards?
Well, the bioeconomy, that is the vision of standing up a vibrant new industry, and it's how it brings value. And value can be measured in many terms. It can be measured in jobs created in the US. It can be measured in reduction in emissions, in the reduction of import of foreign oil, in energy security, reduction of debts for the US because it's maintaining funds within the US. And it's along the entire supply chain. So it's bringing value from all the way from farmers through engineers to distributors to the end user, using biofuels and bioenergy and biochemicals derived from biomass.
It just sounds so important for us to be involved in this area. So what are some of the new developments? Can you name 3 exciting developments that you see coming down the pike in bioenergy?
I'd love to. With the first development I would point people to is between 2014 and 2015, we're going to see coming to fruition in the first large-scale demonstrations of production of cellulosic ethanol. Now these are commercial scale, they're the pioneers, the first of their kind. And these will be making millions of gallons of cellulosic ethanol and other biofuels. And this is showing it's possible. And then from those, they will be able to do the second plant to the 5th plant, and that's the beginning of our vibrant new industry that we're trying to stand up. Another thing is we're seeing that was cellulosic ethanol, and we're beginning to see other biofuels come to the forefront. Behind those in R&D, there's been this transition in the R&D platform, research and development platform, towards drop-ins. What are drop-in biofuels? These are biofuels that are hydrocarbons and can utilize the existing infrastructure. They offer additional avenues to get into the market itself. The third thing we might like to highlight is how the biofuels can be utilized not just in one sector. We can go to different sectors. We want to work with things such as electrification of vehicles, and they will be ideal in some scenarios. We want to work with engine manufacturers who are looking at engine efficiency. But the role of the biofuels can aid with engine efficiency, but also look at that's on-road vehicles. We can have an opportunity here to look at on-road light-duty vehicles, I should qualify. We can look at heavy-duty vehicles and other sectors, such as aviation, perhaps heating oil, marine section, and maybe even rail.
It sounds like this is not a new field. For the sake of our audience, we have been around for 20 to 30 years now, really plugging away at this, and we've made some great strides. It's exciting to hear you talk about that. But can you speak towards investment, and how should the investment community be looking at this, and why is it important for them to continue to be supporting this? I mean, we're so close to the finish line.
Thank you for bringing up that point. It is absolutely vital, as you say, that we have investment in the technologies and the companies that are actually doing this. And the role of government, and that's not just the Department of Energy, but many agencies, is to reduce the technical risk and to work with the industrial partners and universities and national labs to drive down the said technical risk. Once the technical risk is coming, as the technical risk is coming down, that should encourage investors to come into the market, and then you'll see them owning more and more, and you're seeing the market emerge, and you'll see the beyond the first plant, the second plant, going to the 10th plant, going to the 100th plant, so we can have national impact at the scale that we need for a vibrant America.
And that's important for the research community, the investment community. What can the American constituent be doing? What's important for them to know as they think about bioenergy in their future?
Well, one of the roles that the constituents can do is they can be open to the utilization of biofuels. There are lots of vehicles out there now that are warranted or validated to actually use biofuels. Be open to the utilization of, most of the moment, the fuels that are out there, there are E10, 10% ethanol in gasoline at the moment. There are newer vehicles that are now able to take E15. We're beginning to see E15 pumps, 15% ethanol. There are E85 vehicles out there. Finding an E85 pump may have been a challenge, but that is progressing as well. The utilization of the biofuels, it is vibrant to the US. It's bringing additional resources into the fuel market, perhaps reducing the volatility. So being open to the idea of utilizing biofuels. The other thing, there are several myths out there around biofuels. There's the myth that, if biofuels are utilized, then this will dramatically affect the price of food. There's been significant scientific studies, not just one, but many scientists discussing this, looking at sustainable practices. So and the emphasis at the Department of Energy is on cellulosic biofuels. So it's utilizing components of, say, one example might be corn, not using the corn cobs, as in the kernels that come off it that are delicious to eat, but the cobs that are left behind, the stalks, the stover, and converting those into biofuels. So that way, you still have a vibrant food supply for the US and the rest of the world, but at the same time, these materials that weren't utilized are able to be utilized to make biofuels and bioproducts and energy.
Sounds to me like the farmer has a double win there. They're able to get value from the food crop that they're producing, and then additional value from the residues and the leftover wastes that perhaps they would have been using for lower value needs like animal bedding and that sort of thing. So it sounds like a win-win situation, and I can only imagine that on a sustainability front, that's very important for us as a nation. I'd like you to talk a little bit, if you would, about the President's Climate Action Plan and things that we're hearing and how biofuels feeds into that overall environmental issue.
Right. The President's Climate Action Plan, the President has outlined that there isn't a singular fix. One needs many different technologies in different areas. So there's renewable power, and you're seeing wind and solar and other ways to advance in renewable power. There's a play for biopower, perhaps a smaller role, but it's there. And then in the transportation mode, we're seeing engine efficiency increases. We're seeing the CAFE standards. Mm-hmm. This is enabling the consumer to go further on the same gallon of gas, which is going to be useful to all of us. When you look at the amount of income that is spent on fuels, that can be important to the consumer. With the Climate Action Plan, it's more efficient utilization of the fuel going further, so you're reducing the emissions. Now, biofuels, because they're able to uptake things like CO2, and if you look, obviously you have to look at the individual technology, and you have to look at the crop itself and how it's grown. The emissions that they give out upon combustion can be balanced by the amount of emissions that was taken in upon growing the crops. So this leads to another way to take down the emissions that you would emit using petroleum fuels. So biofuels have a vibrant role to play in this. And you might say, as we sort of touched on previously, what about electric vehicles? They have a vibrant role to play as well. But it's not going to be one size fits all. You're going to need biofuels to address certain markets and the diversity that is celebrated across the US means that you'll have diversity in technologies. That is why the Department of Energy is looking at a number of solutions, and we have diverse portfolios, as you know. So biofuels can also help in things like jet fuel, where perhaps it's one of the leading options at the moment. There isn't an electrification option at the moment, and biofuels can have a role in that one. And that's just one of the many markets where biofuels can help work in a sustainable manner to reduce emissions.
Very interesting. I know we've touched on most of the things I wanted to talk about. I know you have an open door policy for people to come in. We're open to the innovative new ideas that people have. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with in terms of a final message?
Well, biofuel, or the bioeconomy will involve all of us. We have an opportunity to stand up this new renewable industry. It will need all of us working together. There's plenty of work for everybody. We will need successes along the entire supply chain, and that can involve all of us. It can involve future students, it can involve the consumers, it can involve many different government agencies, our partnerships with industry and universities, and the opportunity here is vast. And so to be part of that, that's the kind of thing that gets myself and most probably yourself and a lot of individuals up in the morning. We're all aspiring to leave the planet better than when we were here for future generations. And biofuels can contribute to that. And that's the kind of thing that you want to contribute to, and the reason why we want to be at DOE working on this.
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you for being here, for helping us with this effort. I want to welcome the audience to spend some time on our website to learn more about the things Jonathan talked about. And as I mentioned before, our door is always open. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.